Hello, today I'll be talking about 10 underrated fourth albums from my collection. So yeah, I'm surprised I haven't done this one yet. I mean, when it comes to this topic, I've talked about third albums, I've talked about fifth albums, sixth albums, and seventh albums. I believe that's all of them if I remember correctly, but again, today we'll be talking about fourth albums. So let's go ahead and start off with one of the big names in the world of progressive metal, Dream Theater, and we'll be talking about their album Falling Into Infinity. Something you immediately notice with this album is that you can tell they're being pushed to be more radio friendly on this album, and it definitely shows, especially with certain songs like You Not Me being the obvious one, and of course Hollow Years, which is one of the bigger songs off of here, maybe the biggest song off this album. Of course, also had a music video. But I think you get some good deep cuts on this album. I do like the more melodic Peruvian Skies. Hell's Kitchen, I think, is kind of an underrated instrumental from them. Burning My Soul, one of the heavier songs off the album, and also one of my favorites on the album too. I think the album opens up with one of its best songs with New Millennium. Now, there are moments in that song that do kind of remind me of Alice in Chains a little bit, especially with some of James's vocal moments in that song, such as more like in the verses, I'd say, of that song. But yeah, New Millennium, to me, one of the best songs on here. But yeah, Falling to Infinity, actually a solid album. Not one of their best, but I wouldn't say their worst either. I can't remember where I ranked it within their discography, because I think I did a ranking for them once, like a long time ago. I can't remember when, but either way, Falling to Infinity, to me, solid album. And also their only album with Derek on keyboards. But yeah, let's move into death metal with Morbid Angel with their album Domination. For many people, this album is a step down from the three albums that came before it, but I'm actually one of the rare people that actually likes this more than Blessed Are the Sick. Blessed Are the Sick is also pretty good, but honestly, this is actually my third favorite Morbid Angel album. I mean, of course, the fan favorite on here is Where the Slime Live, which is, of course, one of their best songs. But I think you have other really great songs on here, like Eyes to See, Ears to Hear. Dominate's definitely a banger. I also like Dawn of the Angry. That song probably has some of my favorite riffs on the album. This Means War is another underrated cut off this album. Now, it's not perfect, though. Caesar's Palace and Hate Work are two songs that have never done anything for me. Never been a fan of those songs. Inquisition, I think, is a decent track, but not one of the stronger songs off the album, I'd say. But yeah, pretty good album. But that would be their final album with David Vincent. Of course, he would return in 2011 with their worst album, Louis Divinum Insanus. But continuing with death metal, we have Obituary with World Demise. So this is actually one of my favorite Obituary albums. This is actually my second favorite. I mean, I seem to dig this album more than some people. Just like with Domination, there seems to be a consensus that this album is a major step down from the three albums that came before it. But personally, I disagree, though. I mean, Cause of Death is, of course, at the top for me, but this is actually my second favorite. Now, something you notice with this album is you get more groove this time around. You get more, the songs are more slow paced. You don't get as much thrash or speed compared to other albums like Cause of Death or Slowly We Rot. Again, you get more groove this time around, but which I know is a red flag for some fans. But personally, I don't mind the more groovy direction on this album. And of course, you also have the use of sampling in this album too, such as in songs like Redefined and Boiling Point. But also, the album opens up with, to me, one of my favorite Obituary songs, with Don't Care. That song is definitely a banger, and to me, one of their best album openers, and to me, honestly, one of their best songs too. I really like that song a lot. Title Track's another standout on the album for me. Redefine's definitely a banger. That song especially goes hard. Boiling Point, I think, is one of their more underrated songs. There's a bonus track. I think it's on maybe a deluxe edition or a remastered version. The song Killing Victims Found. That's one of my favorites off this album, even though it's more of a bonus track, if I remember correctly. But it's not on this version of the album, though. But Killing Victims Found, really underrated song. Solid State's also pretty good. And Final Thoughts, which, if I remember correctly, is one of the fan favorites off here. That song's another standout in the album, especially within the second half of the album. But yeah, I really dig World Demise. Again, to me, one of the band's best. The next we'll be moving to Red with their album Release the Panic. Often considered either their worst or one of their weaker albums. And yeah, it's not top shelf Red, but personally, I dig this album. And I did become a fan around when this album was coming out. I can't remember if the album was out or not yet when I first became a fan. I can't remember at the moment, but either way, I think this album's actually pretty good. Of course, I dig the title track. I mean, now with this album, you do notice the use of electronics, which I know is a turn off for some fans, but for me, I don't have an issue with it. And of course, you don't have Rob Graves producing. You have Howard Benson, which is of course a big name when it comes to this style of music. But yeah, I did Release the Panic, the title track. Perfect Life, I think, is another pretty good single for the band. I think you get the lesser known songs on here are also pretty good, like If We Only, which is easily one of my favorites on the album. Definitely underrated. Damage is one of the heavier songs off this album. I really dig that one too. The Moment We Come Alive, I think, is another underrated cut off this album. So yeah, maybe not their number one best, but still, I think this album is another pretty good album for Red. And honestly, I like it more than those last two albums, which, I mean, I like Rated R and Declaration, but honestly, I have more of a soft spot for Release the Panic. I feel like that album has more memorable songs, while with Declaration, which probably has some of their heaviest work, I do like that album. And Rated R is also good too, but I think Rated R is probably their weakest. It feels, that album to me in particular kind of feels a bit more lackluster compared to some of their other albums. Well, really all of their other albums. I think Rated R is at the bottom, but still an okay album though. But yeah, Release the Panic, definitely underrated in my opinion. To me, an album that deserves more love. But next we're moving to Sevendust with their album Seasons. I really dig this album a lot. I mean, really, for me, you can't go wrong with any songs off those first four Sevendust albums. I mean, that 4-album run that they had with those first 4 albums with their albums with TVT Records, you just can't go wrong with any of those 4 albums. But this album, for me, from what I've noticed, doesn't quite get as much love as like other albums like Home or Animosity. Now, the criticism I have noticed with this album is that some people call this album a bit formulaic, or it's formulaic being the obvious one, but also it doesn't have as much variety as some of their other albums, like, or maybe as much variety as an album like Animosity, for example. But yeah, those are a couple criticisms I've heard for this album. But for me personally, I really dig this album a lot. I think it's pretty solid from front to back. This is an album I can listen to from front to back with no issue. But yeah, of course you have your share of bangers of songs that go hard, like Enemy and Face to Face, but you do have your more melodic songs like Skeleton Song being the obvious one, and I think that ballad is definitely one of their more underrated songs. Broken Down, I feel, is a single from them that should have been bigger for them. I really like that song a lot. I think you get some of the band's best deep cuts on this album too, like Separate and Gone. I think those are 2 songs that definitely deserve more love. Definitely underrated, especially Gone, which is a song I've grown to appreciate more and more over the years. But yeah, Seasons, really great album in my opinion. To me, one of Sevendust's best, or it's at least in the top 5. But next we'll be moving to Static X with their album Start a War. This album sees the return of Koichi on guitar. And something you notice with this album is that it's a bit more heavier, a bit darker compared to the album that came before it. That album, of course, being Shadow Zone from 2003. But yeah, I really dig this album a lot. This was actually the first CD that I bought from these guys. And I think maybe the first album that I heard in full from front to back from them too, if I remember correctly. Now, of course, the first song I heard from Static X was The Only, and then I think I listened to Push It next. But in terms of listening to a full album, I think this was the first one I heard from front to back. Yeah, I really dig this album a lot. Definitely a bit underrated. I mean, you do have your fan favorites on here, like I'm the One and Dirt House, but I feel like a lot of the album is a bit overlooked, a bit underrated. Especially songs like Pieces, which that song goes hard, and I really dig the solo in that song too. Just in Case, I think, is another underrated cut. I also like Set It Off. That song might have some of my favorite vocal work from Wayne on the album. I Want to Fucking Break It. It's also definitely a banger. That song especially goes hard. But yeah, really great album in my opinion. For me, one of Static X's best. Probably my 3rd favorite album from them. But now we're moving into grunge slash post grunge. I've heard an argument for both when it comes to this band, but we were talking about Stone Temple Pilots with number 4. Now, yes, this album did eventually go platinum in 2000, if I got the year right. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, outside of Sour Girl, I feel like a lot of the album is kind of underrated. Doesn't get as much love as like albums like, of course, Purple or Core. Purple being my favorite album from Stone Temple Pilots, but this is probably my 3rd favorite album from them. There's some pretty rocking songs on this album too, like Down, which I believe was another single off the album, and Heaven and Hot Rods is also pretty good. Church on Sunday and Atlanta are a couple songs on here that I think are somewhat underrated. But yeah, for me, one of the band's best. But now I've been moving into the world of pop punk with Sum 41 with Underclass Hero. Critically, it didn't do it quite as well as some of their other albums. If I remember correctly, this album got more mixed reviews, but yeah, this album sees them going back to their more pop punk roots, especially after Chuck, which saw them going in a more heavy direction, Chuck being one of my favorite albums from them. But yeah, Underclass Hero, I like this album. Now, is it their number 1 best? Definitely not. I still think All Killer No Filler is probably my favorite. It's either that one or Chuck for me. But I think this album is solid, though. I do like the title track, Underclass Hero. Walking Disaster, I think, is another pretty good single for the band. But you move towards the deeper cuts. I really like March of the Dogs. Definitely one of their more underrated songs, in my opinion. The Jester's also pretty good. With Me, I think, is another pretty good single off the album. A song that I think should have been bigger for them. And Speak of the Devil, probably another one of my favorites on the album, too. But yeah, Underclass Hero, maybe not top shelf Sum 41, but still, I'd say solid, though. And now we're moving to Symphony X with Twilight and Olympus. So when it comes to Symphony X, the fan favorites are usually albums like Wings and Tragedy, if I got the title right. Let's see here. Oh, the Divine Wings of Tragedy, yeah. That's definitely one of their best. V is probably my favorite Symphony X album, and I know the album after that one, The Odyssey, is another fan favorite in their discography, but this album seems to be one of their more underrated albums within their catalog. But personally, I dig it, though. I mean, Smoke and Mirrors is probably one of my favorite Symphony X songs. In the Lion's Den, probably one of my favorite deep cuts on the album, too. I think the album closes with one of its best songs on the album with Lady of the Snow. Church of the Machine is also pretty good. That's a song I've grown to enjoy more and more over time. Grown to be one of my favorites. But yeah, Twilight and Olympus, another pretty good Symphony X album. And now for the final album here, we'll be talking about Transit of Venus by 3 Days Grace. I got this signed by Adam Gontier in person when I did VIP for Saint Asonia. So when it comes to ranking their albums, if I remember correctly, this album is more towards the middle for me. And for me, when it comes to the Adam lineup, this is probably the weakest of the 4 albums, not including Alienation, which of course has Matt and Adam. But yeah, Transit of Venus, this album sees them incorporating more electronic elements, which personally I don't have an issue with. But for me, I think this is actually another pretty good album for 3 Days Grace. Chalk Outline, High Road, Misery Loves My Company, Give Me a Reason. Those are some of my favorites on the album. Expectations is also an underrated cutoff here. But yeah, to me, another pretty good 3 Days Grace album. But yeah, those are 10 underrated 4th albums from my collection. Let me know your thoughts on these albums in the comment section below and all the good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, a like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.